Hello BookTube, hello friends, welcome to LizziefayeLovesBooks. I'm Elizabeth, and in today's video I'd like to share with you my reading plans for February. Now this is literally the third day in a row that I have tried filming this. I thought I would come to you on February 1st and share with you my TBR for February, and I had to scrap it. I made some blunders and I just wasn't gonna use it. And then the next day, yesterday, I came back and I did my January wrap up because I had books due at the library and all that. So I figured I'd just go ahead and get that done. And then I, finished that video, but I didn't upload it or anything. And I went ahead and thought, okay, there's some daylight left. I'll go ahead and film my February TBR. Well, then that just created too much stuff on my camera and it was just getting all clogged up and I had to scrap it. And so, thankfully, I did get my January wrap-up finished, and I hope that you have seen that by now. And so now here it is, February 3rd, and I am going to try this again. And part of my problem is I have so many things to talk about, so many projects that I want to incorporate into every month, and there's readathons, and there's all these books I carried over from January, that I just made a list of everything I wanted to cover, and there's like 11 things on that list. And I don't mean 11 books. I mean 11 projects, readathons, groups of books, whatever. Altogether, I took a rough count, and I counted 25 physical books, and there's more than that because I don't have physical copies of everything. But that's the books that I want to start and hopefully finish this month. That doesn't include the 10 books that I carried over, of which 4 or 5 of those I will just continue to read a little along, so I won't plan on finishing those. But the other 5 or 6 I'd like to finish. So let's just get started. So just to give you an overview of what I'm going to cover, I will briefly just show you the books that I carried over from January in case you missed my January wrap-up. And then I want to just briefly show you what I am reading going forward in the way of devotional books and I have a new Bible reading plan that I just started February 1st. And then February 7th through the 10th is the Little House Readathon that is hosted by myself and Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf. And I got to show you what I'm going to read for that. And I may even do a little drawing to determine one of the books that I want to read for the Readathon. And then there's the Historathon. So I will probably, instead of just going through everything that I want to read for the Historathon, because I've plugged in things from my projects and other things, books that I want to read, I will probably just kind of mix that all together, but I do want to cover what I'm reading for Historathon. It's also Black History Month, and there are several readathons that are coinciding with that, and the one that I will kind of low-key participate in is the BlackAuthorReadathon that I believe is hosted mainly by romance booktubers. And so I've got a couple of books for that, and my TBR jar. I don't know if I will even read or start a new book from my TBR jar, but I want to at least have one ready to go, and I'll show you what that's going to be. And then I've got book club books to read. I did manage to read my January and February selections for both my book clubs, and so now I want to read my March selections for both of those so that every month I am reading the 2 for the next month. And I have a Newbery project, so I'll show you what I am reading this month that will continue to work me towards finishing all the Newbery winners. And then my 3 projects that I just announced recently, I have middle grade trilogies that I'm trying to finish, 1 trilogy per month, and I have a lot of series that I'm trying to finish and others that I want to make progress in. And then I have author binges, 2 authors per month for most months of this year that I want to binge read. So all of that put together is quite a bit. Have you got time for all that? If you don't, then pause this, come back later. I hope you'll come back. And if you do, then, grab a snack and let's get started. If I end up pausing in between, it'll be just to kind of regroup, because that's part of the reason that I had to keep refilming this, because I would forget stuff, or maybe I didn't have everything that I needed and all of that. The one good thing about waiting and doing it for real this time is that I made one more trip to the library this morning and picked up one of my book club books because I didn't have physical copies of either of them when I filmed this onto the first, and then I only had one of them yesterday, and now I've got them both. So that plus, you know, odds and ends that will hopefully make this video a little bit better. Okay, so let's start with what I carried over from January. So I have the 2 books for A Year in Mitford that I am planning on just reading for several months, maybe even the whole year. Jan Karon's Mitford Cookbook and Kitchen Reader, and then the Mitford Bedside Companion. So I have read a small section out of both of those in January and just loved being back in Mitford, and it's just wonderful. So if you are not participating or haven't thought about participating in the Year in Mitford Readathon that is hosted by several booktubers, Kate Howe, Rainy Day Reads, Angie from Literary Labors, and more, then be sure that you check out that readathon. It's not too late. You just got to read 2 books to catch up for February. Read At Home in Mitford, and then the second book, which is A Light in the Window. Okay, so then the other things, I'm just going to go through them real quick because I already kind of talked about these for in my January wrap up. So I had 10 books that I carried over from January. And the other, one of the ones that was intentional is a devotional book that it's going to take me several months to read. So I'll get to it in a minute. And then I have 2 decluttering books. This one is a workbook that I felt sure would take me longer than a month because I'm just working my way through it gradually. Then I had a library book that's also on decluttering, The Chaos Cure. And this is by the Flylady. I didn't get that finished. And then another library book that I wanted to get done is The Castle of Llyr by Lloyd Alexander. This is book 3 in the Chronicles of Prydain. This is towards my Newbery project. I'm working my way up to book 5, which is a Newbery winner in this series, and I just didn't get very far in it for January. So I've got another one of the Newbery Honor books that I'm going to read this month as well, but I'll show you that in a little while. And for the Book One Cozies Club, I started Christmas Cowbells by Mollie Cox Bryan, and I didn't get very far in that. And for Ribsat, I started Toponymity by John Bemelmans Marciano. I read 3 other books for Ribsat. I got about a third of this one done, and I just couldn't make myself finish it. But I will make myself finish it. I just had other things. And I got about half done with this one, and then I put it aside because I wanted to try to get some more library books done and my book club books done, which I did. So I didn't get all my goals accomplished for January, but anyway, that's the reason that I put this aside, because this is my own book. And this is the first book in a trilogy by Julie L. Cannon, Truelove and Homegrown Tomatoes, and I am just about half done. So I won't say much about it right now, but it's cute, and I will talk about this more when I finish this book or when I get the whole trilogy done. I don't know. And then on audio in my car, I've been listening to Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. I finally did bring this in last night and started listening to some of it in the house because it's overdue now at the library. It won't renew because it's a new release. There's already a waiting list for it, and I just need to hurry and get it done. I don't want to send it back and not finish it now because who knows when I'll get it back again. And so it's better to just suck up the fines that I will incur from keeping it a little too long and just go ahead and get it done. So I'll start something else in my car probably, although I brought it in last night and listened to some of it, and then I took it back to my car this morning when I ran some errands, so maybe I'll just go back and forth with it until I get done, although that's kind of a pain to do that. And I've got some other audiobooks on CD that I can start in my car. So I don't know. I really do want to get this done before the Little House Readathon. In fact, all of these that I just showed you, with the exception of the Mitford books, are all books that I would love to finish before the Little House Readathon starts, because I would just like to clear those out of my brain and then be able to just focus on that 4 days and just read Laura Ingalls Wilder related books, with the exception of my devotions, which I will show you now what I am reading this month for that. So the 10th book that I started with the intention of not finishing is Embraced by Lysa TerKeurst. This is 100 devotions, and so I'm reading one a day of those. And then I started another Journey magazine. This is a February edition from 2006 or no, 2008. Okay. And so I'm just reading through some of my old ones since I don't get Journey anymore, and then recycling them as I go, since for whatever reason I didn't recycle them in the first place. And maybe God was just saving them for me for this time when he knew I would want one. And our Sunday school class at church just started this one, More Than a Carpenter by Josh McDowell and Sean McDowell. I think this is an updated version from the original one that Josh McDowell wrote years ago, and now there's a couple of new chapters, and it is the new stuff is co-written by his son Sean. So I started that. We were assigned 2 chapters to read before next Sunday, so I've read the first chapter and then a few pages of chapter 2, and I'm just kind of stretching that out. Okay, so then I have started a new Bible reading project, and the main reason that I did not upload my TBR video on the 1st is because I had this all wrong. I had a big misunderstanding of what this project involved, because the pastor kept saying, we're going to read the Bible in 90 days. And I'm thinking, no one can read the Bible in 90 days. It must just be highlights. And so that's what I had in my head, that it was just, you know, a passage or two here and there that would just give you an overview of the Bible. And then I got the paper Sunday, and I looked here, and I thought, okay, the first day says Genesis 1:1. Well, Genesis 1:1 to what? And it just said Genesis 1:1. I wasn't paying attention to this row over here. I just looked down here and I thought, okay, it's just one verse. Well, and that's just a verse. And that, in my head, I thought that it was just one verse a day. And so I took one into Katie, and because she has to work Sundays now, so I grabbed a copy for her, and I took it in her room. I said, hey, this is a new Bible reading project we're doing at church. It's just one verse a day. So she looked at it later and then came back about the time I was uploading my video on Monday night, or was it Sunday night? Monday night. And she goes, Mom, it's not just one verse a day. It's a whole passage. It's a bunch of chapters every day. And I was like, what? Let me see that. So this is the start. This is where you start, and then this is where you end every day. So the first day was like 16 chapters. And so then I still thought it was just highlights. But then I started going through it. It is the entire Bible in 90 days. And you guys know I just spent 3 years reading the entire Bible. And I thought I was doing pretty good doing that. So now they're asking us to read the whole Bible in 90 days. And I had never heard of anyone doing that before. And so literally just like last night, I was watching a video. I think it was Chantel from at An Intentional Life. And she was talking about that she's reading the Bible in 90 days. And I was like, wow, I guess that's a thing now. People are doing this. So if I commit to this, which I guess I have, I don't know how many of these other things I'm going to get read. Thankfully, most of what I'm going to show you I can get on audio. So it really doesn't take that long to read this amount of scripture. It takes me about an hour, but it's just the whole idea of it. It seems overwhelming, but I'm going to try it and we shall see. So I have now, I didn't mark off today's, but I have read all the passages for the first 3 days, and I did it. I did it all before 9 a.m. and still read my other devotional stuff too. So, so that's great. And then what's the next thing on my list? Okay, so let's talk about the Little House Readathon next. I have some books for sure that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to do a drawing to determine the big one. So we're doing a group read of Young Pioneers, or Let the Hurricane Roar. This is by Rose Wilder Lane. This is the old version, Let the Hurricane Roar, and then it was updated and the names were changed. The main characters were originally named Charles and Caroline, and then they were changed to Mollie and David. And I don't know all the reasons for that. I can speculate, but it's neither here nor there. We will chat about these books or this book when we do our live show on Saturday, February 13th at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific, and it will be after the Book Sisters have their discussion, because theirs will be at 3 p.m. Eastern, and I was really conscious of not wanting to overlap with them, and I was thinking that they didn't have one that day, and then I found out they did, and I was like, oh dear, but they are pretty good about keeping theirs to an hour. So when you get done watching the Book Sisters, that will be, I think, on Chloe. I don't know if it's going to be on Chloe's channel or Sarah's channel for February, but when you get done with that, come on over to my channel and let's chat about everything Laura Ingalls Wilder and about Young Pioneers. And so then on audio, I am going to listen to Prairie Fires. This is by Caroline Fraser, and I have never read this before. I've heard other people mention it, and I think a couple of people are going to read it during the readathon. It's kind of a chunker, but it looks very interesting. The physical copy has some pictures. I think I've seen a lot of these pictures already in other biographies and at museums. But anyway, I'm going to listen to this on audio. I also, I had almost forgotten about this, but I checked this out from the library for Emily the other day. This is Winter on the Farm. This is from the My First Little House book series, and this is an excerpt from Farmer Boy. And so this is just a fun little series of picture books that were published, I think, a long time ago, and I have really enjoyed looking through some of these with my kids when they were younger. And of course, Emily still looks at children's books and reads children's books, so for the Little House Readathon, we're going to read this one. And if you're interested, if you did not participate in the Little House Readathon last year or didn't know anything about it, and if you have children, I did a video last year on introducing your child to the Little House books, because you don't have to start right off with Little House in the Big Woods or Little House on the Prairie. There are scaled down versions of the Little House books, even some for toddlers that are board books, and I did a whole video about those. So it is in my playlist, which you should be able to find right on my channel, and I put together a playlist of all of last year's videos, and so it'll be right there if you would like to watch that. And then I thought it would be fun, since the BookTube spin landed on book 15, which I'll show you my book in a few minutes, but I had books 1 through 4 of my list of 20 were books for the Little House Readathon, and they were some choices. I didn't have to read any particular one of those books, and since none of them were chosen, I kind of would like to read one of those books, and so I took those 4 and then I added a few more to the stack. And I thought that I would just draw and see which one I would read. Well, you might remember that I said earlier I filmed this video on Monday. Not this one, but I filmed a version of this on Monday. And I did this. I did a drawing, and I really liked the one that I pulled out of the cup. And so I'm going to keep that one, but why not just draw one more? I may not get them all done, but just for the fun of it, I'll show you what I drew, and then I will show you, we'll draw out another one. But first, let me just show you all of the books. I got to reach down here and grab them. There are 7, I think, here. Yeah. And 3 of them are geared towards children. I have Little House on Rocky Ridge by Roger Lee McBride. This is the first in the Rose series. And I have Old Town in the Green Groves by Cynthia Rylant. This is written about the 2 years that Laura left out of her autobiographical children's series. She didn't write anything about the 2 years that they spent living in Burr Oak, Iowa. So this is about that time period. And then I have checked out from the library, Little House in the Highlands. This is the first book in the Martha years. Martha was Laura's great-grandmother, and she grew up in Scotland. And even though we're not going to do a whole read-along of all of these books right now, I have it checked out from the library, and I may as well read it if this book gets drawn. And then the rest of these are adult books. I have Laura by Donald Zokert, which is a biography. And that one is from the 70s. I think it was published in 1976. This is the one, if I didn't do a drawing, I would have probably picked, because I really do want to read this. This was a gift from my family right after it came out. It's been sitting around on my shelves, and I need to read it. I'm really curious about it. This is Pioneer Girl, and this is by Laura Ingalls Wilder. I believe that, well after her death, they took all of her writings and notebooks and journals and compiled them into this edition right here. And then I have Little House in the Ozarks. This is a compilation of writings. It's a sampler, a Laura Ingalls Wilder sampler, The Rediscovered Writings, edited by Stephen Hines. And this contains her magazine articles that were published. I think some of them were published in the Missouri Ruralist, and maybe there were others. I'm not sure. I don't even know if it was a women's magazine or if it was a women's column of a farm magazine, or maybe there was some of both. But she did write magazine articles that were published before she ever published any children's books. And this is a compilation of those. I have read some of this, but it's been years, and I would love to read it just from the beginning to end and just really enjoy them again. And then the one I ended up drawing out when I first filmed this video is this one, I Remember Laura. It is by also by Stephen Hines, and this is just a really nice book of compilations of people's memories of Laura Ingalls Wilder, and there's some pictures, and it's just really nice. I may have read some of this back when my mom gave it to me. There is an inscription here, which if you watch through my whole playlist from last year, or if you remember watching, I did read the inscription that my mom wrote in here, and I'm not going to read it today because it'll make me tear up again. But anyway, my mom was just very special, and we both had a love of Laura Ingalls Wilder, and she's the one who introduced me to the books by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and then even as an adult, she was continuing to give me books about Laura. We visited Mansfield, Missouri together 2 different times in our lives, and also Independence, Kansas. And so now that my mom is gone and passed away, I will have fond memories of her just by reading this book that she gave me. So those are the books that I could potentially read. So this is the one I drew out, and I will read that one. But I thought, for fun, why not just draw out one more? I don't know if I'll get to it. If it's one of the children's books, then I would have probably a better chance at reading it. And I probably have all I can do to read what I have here during the 4-day readathon, or even just during that whole week. But maybe I could go ahead and continue and read it, throughout the month. I don't know. We shall see. If I end up drawing out one of the other long ones, I probably won't be able to do it. But let's just see what happens. It'll be fun. Okay, so I've drawn one out. Let's see what I get. I got Old Town in the Green Groves. Oh, that's perfect because that's the shortest one. And I might be able to squeeze that in. Hang on a second. That is this one by Cynthia Rylant, and I've had this sitting on my shelves for quite a while, and I would love to read this. So yeah, that's great. I'm glad that I got that one. All right, so let's see what is next on my list. So next I have Historathon, but I think instead of talking about what I'm going to read specifically for Historathon, I will just tell you that I am planning to do a row of 3. So let's say if you could picture it right here, which I know you can't because I don't know how to do that. I don't have the software to do that. They have 3 rows of 3, and I am going to do from up to down on that far row, and I don't even remember what order they are. I think the prompts are to read a book set in a war other than World War II, and there's one about a person's name in the title, and one about a subgenre of historical fiction. So I'm definitely going to do those 3, and I grabbed the group read from the library. I might give that a try. And so hang on just a second, because I think that my camera is about to cut off, and I will come back in just a second, and I will show you the rest of what I'm going to read for the month. Okay, I'm back now. I had to shuffle a few things around, and we can continue. So the Historathon has a prompt graphic of 9 prompts, and one of the things that they're doing is a group read. So even though I'm really only probably going to do for sure the far row, vertical, up to down, I thought, you know, why not just take a look at the group read and see if it's something that I would enjoy, because I do enjoy historical fiction. Most of the time I don't read it unless I have to for book club, but then I end up loving whatever I read. So I figured I would just give this a go. The group read is The Yellowbird Sings by Jennifer Rosner, and it looks really good. It's set in World War II, and so I'm going to give it a try. I think I can get it on audio from my library, which I will check out later in the month because I've already got several things in queue right now, so I will hopefully be able to get to this before the end of the month. By the way, the Historathon is hosted by the Curly Reader and Angie Science Mama, so if you have not heard about it, where have you been? But anyway, if you, whether you have or haven't, just check out their channels. They both have really great channels, and this is going to be a fun readathon. So the 3 prompts that I'm for sure going to do, I will show you as I go along, because I think most of those books will fit in with my other projects, and so I'll just, you know, when I get to those books, I'll mention that that's for the Historathon. And then I've got some other books that I'm reading anyway that also may fit for the Historathon. So since I'm going to give the group read a try, and the 3 over on the far side, maybe some of these others that I have already on, you know, on tap to read will fit some of the other prompts, and I might end up doing all of them. I don't know. We'll see. This one, so anyway, let me just kind of get back to my list. One thing I meant to show you on my carryovers is I have this Amish Christmas at North Star by Cindy Woodsmall and other authors. This is something I've had checked out since Christmas, and I never even started it, but I have like 9 days on it left on audio on Hoopla. So I do want to go ahead and finish it so that I don't completely waste that borrow, and I need to get this back to the library. So that was the only other carryover. It didn't count as my 10 books that I carried over, that I started in January and carried over, because I never started it. But it is a book that I thought I would get to in the month of January, and I didn't. So the next thing on my list is Black History Month, and I am going to kind of low-key participate with the Black Author Readathon that is hosted by several romance booktubers, and the best place I can tell you to check out those prompts and everything is from Chloe at Always Booked. She did a whole video, and she's reading a book for every single prompt. I am not going to read a book for every single prompt, but I am going to read the Book Sisters book, which is called Southern Storm, or Storms. It's by Brittany C. Cherry, and I found that on audio on Scribd, thanks to somebody else who mentioned that it was on Scribd, and so I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Oh, I think it was Elizabeth Tyree. So anyway, check out her channel if you haven't. She could really use some more subscribers, and she is a middle school teacher, and she reads all kinds of stuff, including middle grade, and I think that you would enjoy getting to know her. She's been one of my best booktube friends for a long time. So yeah, I heard her say that that was going to be on that book was on Scribd, and I was like, oh, I might have a shot at reading it. And then also, when I heard about that readathon, I definitely wanted to read something for Black History Month, and I do have a children's book that I want to read. But also, last year for the summer fling, I looked up several Christian Black authors that write romance, and I read one, Wanda B. Campbell, and that book was a roller coaster, but I'm so glad that I read it. And so there were a couple of others that were on my radar, and one of them is Vanessa Davis Griggs. So I found that she has several books on Hoopla on audio. One of them is the beginning of a trilogy. It's called Blessed Trinity, and I want to give that a try and see if I enjoy her work. So that is what I'm reading for the Black Author Readathon. And then also I am going to read one of the Newbery Honor books that was just announced this year, this past month, like a week or so ago. And this is one of the honor books. It's called Bucks. Henry Brown Mails Himself to Freedom, and it is by Carol Boston Weatherford, illustrated by Michelle Wood. And this is basically a picture book that also has a good bit of text, and this is going to be a perfect book to read for Black History Month. And I want to read all the Newbery winners and eventually all the honor books. And the Newbery winner that was just announced is a little lengthier than I had time for this month, but I will get to that one at some point. And so this is the perfect choice for for February. And then I already mentioned the other Newbery related book that I'm reading is one of the Chronicles of Prydain. So between that one and this one, that'll be what I read for my Newbery project for the month of February. And so then my TBR jar. Now I have a TBR jar of two. One is for some fiction books that I think I can read and get rid of, and then the other one is for nonfiction. So I'm probably not going to get to any of the other fiction ones that I drew out in my last recent draw, because the only ones I have left to read are mysteries, and I will read those for March Mystery Madness. But I would like to maybe knock out another one of these nonfiction books, and I've got 3 here. This is what I have left to read. And I was just trying to decide, because one of them is a book of, I don't know if you'd consider it essays or just humorous things by Baxter Black. He was a commentator on NPR. My sister had heard of him. I've never heard of him, but she said he was hilarious. This book is called Hey Cowboy, Wanna Get Lucky? And I found that at a library book sale, and I didn't have any idea what it was about, but it looked fun. And so then I have Raising Great Kids by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. And Dave Ramsey is always recommending Henry Cloud, and so that was one I picked up at a library book sale. And then this one, How to Say It to Girls, Communicating with Your Growing Daughter by Nancy Groover. And this one is kind of a chunker, but it's got a lot of white space, so it probably wouldn't take me that long to read. And since there's an old saying that says, if you have to swallow a lot of frogs, swallow the biggest one first. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get started on this one. I may not get very far this month because I've got a lot on my plate, but why not just go ahead and tackle that largest one? I would like to do another TBR jar draw maybe by the end of March. So let's see if I can get those done as soon as possible. Okay, the next thing on my list is book club. One of these would probably work for the Historathon. It is The Girl in the White Gloves. It's a novel of Grace Kelly by Carrie Mayer, and this looks really good. I'm gonna have to read this in print. I don't have an audio copy available to me, but I think this looks really interesting. And isn't that just a beautiful cover? The that blue, oh, I love that blue, and it's just stunning. So I'm excited about that. And then the other one probably wouldn't work for the Historathon. I don't think it's historical. I don't know, it could be. It's by Tana French, The Witch Elm. This, I believe, is a standalone. For my mystery club, we have read the first in the Dublin Murder Squad, and I didn't love it. We read it a couple years ago, and I don't know anything about this one. So if you've read it, let me know. Like I said, I didn't love the first of the Dublin Murder Squad books, and I haven't read any more, but someone else wanted to read this one, and so even though I facilitate the mystery book club, I don't get to pick all the books. We try to, let everyone have equal say in what we read. And so this is the one that we're reading for March, so I'm going to go ahead and read it in February. The Witch Elm by Tana French. Is it Tana or Tana? I think it's Tana, but I could be wrong. And then, let's see, what else? Next on my list is, I already talked about Newbery. So I have 3 reading projects that I am focusing on this year. One of them is to read some middle grade trilogies. I have 12, so I figured I could read one a month and get through the year. However, I have 2 scheduled for October, and that's good because I didn't get a full trilogy read in January. I did reread the first one. All of these are trilogies, either middle grade or YA trilogies, that I've read the first one and I want to read the other 2. The one I read in January was The Luck Uglies by Paul Durham, and that's probably the only one of these 12 trilogies that I feel like I need to reread the first one. All the rest I'm just going to continue right on with book 2 and then 3. So for February, I am going to read the rest of the Alex and Eliza trilogy by Melissa De La Cruz. And this works perfect for the prompt to read a book for the Historathon that is set not in World War II. Love and War is set in at the Revolutionary War, because this is about Hamilton. And then I'm going to read this one in print, and then the third book I can get an audio copy from my library. And so then I may as well just go ahead and go down the rest of the Historathon prompts or no? Yes. Well, okay. So yeah, I'm just reading one middle grade trilogy, and then the next project is to finish some series. So the one that I plan to finish this month will work for actually both of the other two prompts that I'm gonna read, which is this has a person's name in the title, but the prompt I'm going to count it for is the prompt to read a subgenre of historical fiction. This is a subgenre of a subgenre. This is Christian historical romance. And I have, this particular bind-up has 3 books. I've already read Glory, and I want to read Ruth and Patience, especially just if I can get through Ruth this month, then that will accomplish that goal. But I definitely want to finish this. This bind-up contains the books 4, 5, and 6 in the Brides of the West series by Lloyd Copeland. And I'm going to be binge reading some Lloyd Copeland later in the year, but this was too good to pass up for the Historathon because it would work for both of those prompts. And I want to finish this series. So then for the other prompt, this is not for any of my other projects, but the I think is it the bottom? I wish I could put this up here for you, but I can't. I'm sorry. I will link it down below. But the Historathon graphic has a prompt to read a book that has a person's name in the title. And I'm going to read The Lost Summer of Louisa May Alcott by Kelly O'Connor McNeese. I've had this book on my shelf for a while. I kind of had it on my radar, one of my TBRs last year, and I never got to it. It's on Hoopla on audio. I hope it's still there because that's what my plan is, to listen to it. And I love the cover. It's just gorgeous. So that will count for that other prompt. And then some of these other books may work for Historathon prompts, but I'm mainly going to focus on making sure I get that one row from up to down on the far side. Okay, then I also have some other at least one other series that I'm not trying to finish this series, but I just want to read another book in this series because it's so good, and I would love to just make some progress in it. So it doesn't meet any other goals this month except to just further me along in the series. And it's the Tony Hillerman Lee Porn and Cheese series. So I went ahead and checked out 2 books from the library. The next one that I need to read is Talking God, and it is on Hoopla on audio. And then the next one I have is Coyote Waits, and I don't think this one's on Hoopla, but I may have an abridged audio of this one, which I would listen to and count it, but I have a feeling that I'm going to want to just read the whole thing, and whether I can get to it this month or not, I don't know, but I'm just in the mood to read these, and sometimes I feel guilty mood reading, because I have so many other books that I want to read to meet certain goals. I love TBRs, and I love checking things off my list. That really is my jam, but every once in a while, it's fun to just grab something just because I want to. And that's what I did in this situation. And then I have 2 other series, though, that I want to catch up with. Well, one I would like to read in its entirety, and then one I want to catch up with. And both of these are going to be my author binges for this month. One author that I want to binge is Anne B. Ross. She writes the Miss Julia series, and I need to read 5 of these for this month. 4 of the 5, the most recent ones, are on audio on Hoopla, and I've got 3 physical copies here. Miss Julia Raises the Roof. These are in no certain order. Miss Julia Inherits a Mess, and Miss Julia Weathers the Storm. So I think Inherits a Mess is the next one I need to read, and then I don't even remember now what number these are. I'll list it down below. So the one that's most recently out, I just ordered from the library. It's Miss Julia Knows a Thing or Two. And the other one that's been out already a year is on Hoopla audio. So I've got 4 that I can listen to, and then I'm going to read Miss Julia Knows a Thing or Two, hopefully this month. And then the newest one comes out at the end of April. So my goal is to be caught up with the 5 that I haven't read that are currently out, so that I'm ready for the newest one in April. And then I have another series that has just been burning a hole in my shelf for a while now, and I've heard so many great things about it. The author is Adriana Trigiani, and I'm even more excited to read the Big Stone Gap series now because in December I read Kiss Carlo and I loved it, and I think they're not related at all, but I'm just excited to read more work by Adriana Trigiani. And I've had this book, this series of 4 books on my shelves for a couple of years now, and I want to get to them. I did discover that my library had a CD copy of Big Stone Gap, so this is going out to my car immediately so that I can get started on this one, especially since I brought Ready Player 2 in the house. I will definitely go ahead and take this to the car so that it's there. I may still take Ready Player 2 in and out until I finish it, but this is lined up ready for me to go. And then just for fun and really, I ordered another CD book by her that starts a different series before I realized the library had this one. And I had already ordered this one and I just left it on my holes. So now they're both here. This is Very Valentine by Adriana Trigiani. This is book 1 in a trilogy, the Valentine trilogy. So I don't know. I know I've got a lot on my plate, but this is an author I wanted to binge, so why not try this other series as well? It may get a little steamy, but based on her book Kiss Carlo, that one didn't even have any foul language. And so I have high hopes that this is an author that I'm really going to love, and we shall see. Then that's almost everything. Back to when I was talking about just making progress in series that I want to finish. I forgot to mention the Dearest Dorothy series. I may go ahead and try to pick up another one of these. They are not only on Script, now they're on Hoopla. All but the first one, and I'm already past the first one. So that's exciting. I will be able to get to those. And then if you did watch my video about the 12 middle grade trilogies, middle grade or YA trilogies that I want to finish this year, you may have counted that I only mentioned 11. And I did put in the description the one that I forgot. And it's because I had ordered one of the books from the library and it hadn't come in at the time and I just forgot to mention it. So the other trilogy that I neglected to mention in that video is the Neptune trilogy by Polly Holyoke. I've watched several videos of people pronouncing her name, and it's Polly Holyoke. And I have read the first one, of course. This is the third one, I think, the Neptune Promise. Anyway, these all take place underwater, and the first one was a Sunshine State book several years ago. I really enjoyed it, and it's kind of a underwater fantasy kind of series. Is it fantasy or sci-fi? Maybe a little of both. It's been a while, but I think I could pick up with the second book without having to reread the first one. Anyway, so I'm not reading it this month. It just finally came in from the library, and I thought, well, I would just show it to you before I took it back, because at some point this year I want to read that trilogy or finish the trilogy. I think that's everything now that I could possibly read, except for my BookTube spin choice. That was book 15 was the one that was picked, and on my list of 20, book 15 is News from Thrush Green by Miss Reed, and I am super excited to get to this. I don't love the Thrush Green series quite as much as the Fair Acre series, but I still love everything I've read by Miss Reed, and I want to read everything. So this will finish off a row on my Stackmas tree, my embarrassingly unfinished Stackmas tree that was from Christmas of 2019, and I've still got like 6 books left to read from that, and so this is one of them, so that's great. And that's it. That's all for this video. Do you think that's enough? Do you think I'm going to run out of stuff to read for February? I don't think so. Anyway, it'll be great if I can get to most of these. Most of these I can get on audio, which is always faster for me than print reading. And I want to make some other progress in some of the other books that I carried over, and then I want to finish some of these, the others that I carried over from January, as well as move on into my February picks. So it's going to be a fun month. I hope you will join us for the Little House Readathon, and we've got a live show coming up, and then very, very, very soon you will see another wonderful announcement from myself and several other booktubers about something huge that's coming up in March. So that's all for this video. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.